All right.
All
We
right.
all.
All right. Welcome, everybody. Good afternoon. I am so excited. I am so excited for another phenomenal, inspiring, encouraging, provocative, and inviting Tuesday at 12 noon Bible study. I know I say this about every Bible study session that we have, but today, for real, I mean it. Today, I am very excited about our topic for today. As you know, we have had the opportunity to read a phenomenal, wonderful book entitled Psalms for Black Lives, Reflections for the Work of Liberation. I know it's very popular to find a devotional or reading material to check out, but this book wants to remind us in some sense that everything we need in terms of encouragement, in terms of education, in terms of empowerment, we can find right in the Bible through a wonderful book entitled The Psalms. And so Pastors Gabby Cujo-Wilkes and Andrew Wilkes have penned this amazing reflective work entitled Psalms for Black Lives that has us examine the Psalms in some pretty new, exciting, and interesting ways. The focus or theme that we want to primarily lift up is how do we read the Psalms through the lens of justice and liberation? Again, how do we begin to read the Psalms through the lens of justice and liberation? And so this is the reflective question that we find ourselves grappling with on today. Oh man, there is a psalm in particular that I can't wait for us to check out in this book. There's an awesome and amazing psalm that I can't wait for us to check out. Please, if you haven't done so already, family, please grab pen and paper so that you can take some notes and jot some writings down. We want to look at Psalm 103. Psalm 103. This would be, for all of those who were able to grab a copy of the book, this would be under the heading of Day 5 in the book. Day 5. And so we want to check out Psalms 103. If you don't have a Bible nearby, no worries. We're going to place the scriptures on the screen for you to read along with us. Psalm 103 from the New Revised Standard Version. We often lift up the New Revised Standard Version as United Church of Christ family. This is the version that our denomination highlights. And so if you have an opportunity, please grab a New Revised Standard Version Bible and read these scriptures from that interpretation in particular. Psalms 103 highlights or says, a thanksgiving for God's goodness by the writer David. Bless the Lord, O my soul, and all that is within me. Bless God's holy name. Bless the Lord, O my soul, and do not forget all of God's benefits, who forgives all of your iniquity, who heals all of your diseases, who redeems your life from the pit, who crowns you with steadfast love and mercy, who satisfies you with good as long as you live, so that your youth is renewed like the eagles. The Lord works vindication and justice for all who are oppressed. He made known his ways to Moses, his acts to the people of Israel. The Lord is merciful and gracious, slow to anger and abounding in steadfast love. The Lord is merciful and gracious, slow to anger and abounding in steadfast love. He will not always accuse, nor will he keep his anger forever. God does not deal with us according to our sins, nor repay us according to our iniquities. For as the heavens are high above the earth, so great is God's steadfast love to those who fear him. As far as the east is from the west, so far he removes our transgressions from us. As a father has compassion for his children, so the Lord has compassion for those who fear him. For he knows how we were made. He remembers that we are dust. As for mortals, their days are like grass. They flourish like a flower of the field, for the wind passes over it and it is gone, and its place knows it no more. But the steadfast love of the Lord is from everlasting to everlasting on those who fear him, and his righteousness to children's children, to those who keep his covenant and remember to do his commandments. The Lord has established his throne in the heavens, and his kingdom rules over all. Bless the Lord, O you his angels, you mighty ones who do his bidding, obedient to his spoken word. Bless the Lord, all his hosts, his ministers who do his will. Bless the Lord, all his works, in all places of his dominion. Bless the Lord, O my soul. These 22 verses are amazing, wonderful, awe-inspiring verses. This is, in some sense, a psalm of thanksgiving that our beloved writer, David, is highlighting for us to reflect on in these moments. But there is something interesting about the timing of this text. The timing of the words penned in this selection, according to our authors, the Wilkes family. For those who grew up in the church, we remember the call to worship, which would usually start off something like these famous, pivotal, awe-inspiring words. I will bless the Lord at all times. His praise shall continuously be in my mouth. This is the beginning lines of a call to worship. As we enter into a worship space, this is, in some sense, what our clergy or minister would be inviting us to reflect on as we enter into worship, trying to establish a spirit of thanksgiving amongst the membership. And so many of us have heard the beginning stanza or lines of this text, and we frequently look at this text as an invitation to worship on Sunday mornings at church. However, in some sense, this 103rd Psalm is so much more than just an invitation to worship on Sunday mornings. If we simply think about this psalm as that which we reflect on Sunday mornings, we will miss the awe-inspiring, liberating power of this song. In some sense, our writers want to highlight or suggest the timing for when David speaks this song is very interesting. This psalm is a psalm of thanksgiving, in which David is thanking God in some sense for all that God has done for him, all of the ways in which God has continued to deliver him time after time, even in the midst of David's mistakes, his iniquities. He is thanking God for the ways in which God's graciousness and mercy continues to abound in his life. But what many people don't know until we dive deeper into this text is David is also having a spirit of thanksgiving in these moments because he's also nervous about an impending crisis that he's wrestling with or getting ready to experience. That's right. What makes this text complicated, or maybe an aha moment for many, is that this text is more than just a call to worship. This is more than just simply a prayer of thanksgiving. This 103rd Psalms is a prayer of thanksgiving that David utilizes as a way to encourage himself for the next crisis he's getting ready to have. In some sense, David is reciting this psalm, penning this psalm, thinking about the words to this psalm as a way of encouraging himself or giving himself a new outlook psychologically on how to not become overwhelmed, deeply afraid, scared, and sad about the impending crisis that he is wrestling with. It is so important to highlight that golden nugget. Why? Because oftentimes the writers will highlight when we find ourselves in the middle of a crisis, it is human nature to become sad, mad, or scared. According to Gloria Wilcox, all persons experience sad, mad, and scared. There's no such thing as being able to avoid being afraid. There's no such thing as being able to avoid being sad. There's no such thing as being able to avoid being mad. The question for us to grapple with today, using David as an example, is how do we minister to ourselves in those moments when we feel sad, mad, or scared? What do we say to ourselves in those moments where we are experiencing a crisis and we don't know what to do? We don't know whether to go left, to go right, to go up or down. We don't know whether we should just give up and throw in the towel. We might be dangling on the edge of despair. We may find ourselves in the turbulent times of the rough margins of our life. The question for us is, how do we encourage ourselves? Our authors want to highlight for us that doing the work of liberation could be very taxing. Doing the work of true ministry, where we are doing what Luke chapter 4, verse 16 through 20 highlights, granting recovery of sight to the blind, or healing the oppressed, or speaking against capitalism and serving those who are poor. All of these wonderful liberating acts can also be painful, grueling, tiresome, and downright frustrating at times. But our writers invite us to remember the thanksgiving of David in Psalms 103, that we can recite to ourselves to encourage ourselves when we are sad, mad, or scared. There is a psychological technique that the writers are highlighting for us in these moments. This psychological technique can be found in one of the beginning verses of this Psalms 103 text. There's a particular verse that we want you to pay close attention to. In this Psalms 103 text, we'd like you to pay close attention to verse 2. David says, "Bless the Lord, O my soul, and do not forget all of God's benefits." That is the second verse of this beautifully penned song, meaning that there is something that David is psychologically doing to encourage himself. And there is something that our writers, the Wilkes family, want us to remember. When we face crisis, there is something psychological that we should also do for ourselves. Paying attention to verse 2, do not forget all of God's benefits. What specifically does this mean? In some sense, the writers highlight a psychological dynamic. When we find ourselves in crisis, we oftentimes also wrestle with amnesia. That's right. When we find ourselves in crisis, we also wrestle with amnesia. We forget, in some sense, about all that God has brought us through. Many times when we find ourselves in crisis, we think, I am the only one who is experiencing this crisis on the whole entire face of the planet. And this is the worst crisis I've ever experienced. And God is not listening to me. God is not concerned about me. God is nowhere to be found. God is not listening to my cries for help. God, in some sense, has abandoned me. All of us, when crisis erupts in our lives, feel a sense of amnesia. And this is when Psalms 103 becomes most important for us. Because, as verse 2 highlights, we have to take serious, not forgetting everything that God has done for us. How many people have experienced a crisis? What did you do in the midst of that crisis? Did you really experience God is with you in that crisis? Psalms 103 invites us to, in the midst of this crisis, employ a particular strategy or intervention. Immediately pull out pen and paper and begin to write about everything that God has done for you. Begin to write a list of all of the times when you thought you were in a crisis and God was far away, God was not listening to you, God was nowhere to be found. And you would discover later God was right there with you. You would discover later that even when it didn't feel like God was working on your behalf, you would soon discover later on that God really was, yet and still, working on your behalf. Write this list, write this list, write this list. In the act of writing this list, something psychologically will begin to happen to you. Something psychologically will begin to occur. Something emotionally will happen to your mood. Something emotionally will happen to your spirit. You will feel encouraged. Because as you look at that list and you survey everything that you wrote on that list from start to finish, from top to bottom, you will begin to minister to yourself. What is this dynamic called? What is this dynamic called? What is this dynamic called? In some sense, this dynamic is called the psychological effect of giving thanks. The psychological effect of giving thanks. There is power in giving thanks. There is power in giving thanks. When we give thanks, what we often don't recognize or are not aware about is we discover that there is psychological benefits to giving thanks, to remembering everything that God has done for us. One psychological benefit of giving thanks is that it strengthens our relationships. That's right. When you give thanks to God, did you know that in some sense, you then become encouraged in how you relate to other people? That's right. When you give thanks, in some sense, you begin to become more loving, more compassionate, more gracious, more sensitive to other people. Giving thanks is a wonderful, wonderful, wonderful way to let other people know, I am so happy that you are in my life. And therefore, your relationships are strengthened. Happy people are happy in relationship with other people. Hurt people, offended people, wounded people are often hurt, offended, and wounded in relationships with other folks. And so this power of giving thanks, of sitting back and reflecting on the goodness of everything that God has given to you, makes you a better human being in relationship to other people. Number 2, the act of giving thanks reduces stress. That's right. New studies show that gratitude makes you 10% happier in life. It reduces your stress because psychologically, as you look at this list, you begin to discover, Everything that I thought was hopeless and gone really is not hopeless and gone. Your stress is reduced because this act of making a list, in some sense, takes away your attention off of everything going wrong and refocuses your attention onto everything that's going well. And therefore now your emotions decrease around stress. Your emotions around being sad, mad, and scared decrease. And you begin to pick up a bit more peaceful, joyful powerful. You begin to pick up a bit more happiness. The power of giving thanks also helps you sleep better at night. There are some people who practice, those who wrestle with insomnia. There are some people who practice every night before they go to sleep. They think about, reflect on everything that's going well for them in life. That's right. Try it before you go to sleep tonight. As you're laying in bed, start to reflect on everything that's going well for you in life. Maybe you want to take your list that you make and go stand in front of your mirror in your bathroom and recite your list of everything you're thankful for in the mirror, and then hop into bed. I promise you, you will have more improved and restful sleep. Statistics show that gratitude increases your sleep quality by 25%. We also see that the power of giving thanks psychologically increases self-esteem. That's right. People who have a spirit of gratitude have higher rates of self-confidence and self-esteem. Because making a list of everything that's going well will often also help you see everything you have going for yourself. Sometimes when crisis occurs in life, we get a woe is me attitude, and it takes away attention from all of our gifts, all of our skills, all of our talents. But making a list of everything that's going well also shows you all of the wonderful gifts and skills and talents that you have. And then as you look at that list, you begin to feel better because you now have an increasing self-esteem. You now have a new outlook on who you are as a person. You now can lift your head up high and say, wow, there are so many wonderful gifts, attributes, and aspects of myself, of my being, of who I am. And therefore now your confidence increases. Last but not least, we say, giving thanks boosts your energy. That's right. Did you know being thankful puts an extra pep in your step? From a physiological standpoint, we say being thankful and exhibiting a spirit of gratitude actually increases your desires to move and have movement and exercise and get up and take a walk and do various physical activities, because you will experience physiologically a boost of energy. And so in some sense, we say giving thanks has some physical results for us, and that we have better sleep at night and better energy boosted higher than our energy levels currently. Also, giving thanks has some psychological or emotional impacts on us, in that we in some sense will have reduced stress and better self-esteem. And from a spiritual sense, giving thanks is a way to reconnect us with God. That's right. Giving thanks not only helps us physically and emotionally, but giving thanks helps us spiritually. Because when we write this list out of all the things God has done for us, we are now better in relationship with God. Because now, whereas we thought, maybe I'm having this experience because God is punishing me, or maybe I'm having this experience or crisis because God is not happy with me, or maybe I'm having this experience because I've done something wrong, and God is making me pay a price. We will begin to instead experience God as with us in this crisis. We'll begin to experience God as Emmanuel with us every step of the way in the midst of this crisis. I'll pause there for a second if we have any comments, or our pastor wants to add something.
We Jeanette wrote in the chat, when she thinks about what God has done for her, she says her soul gets happy and she becomes a very grateful person, and pleasant, and even a better person. Yeah, this is I would say this is revolutionary resistance work to battle against, we live in a society that pushes us to, to be ungrateful, to be upset, to be disappointed, to be bitter, to be angry, to be sad, and in fact, again, like we said last week, you have to also watch the people you're around, because I've seen it and I've experienced it where, you try to be upbeat and folk are so down. It eventually sucks the life out of your spirit. There are just some people where every time, and the good people, it's just that they don't realize that every time you're around them, they are whining and crying and complaining about something. And it is really difficult. Mama Inez says, when I think about how good God, again, how good God has been to her, she's grateful that God is in her life, and she's had crisis in her life, but she remembers through that gratefulness who's actually in control. Is God in control? So yeah, this is revolutionary, because oh my goodness, I mean, and it's a daily battle. So I'm glad you because that gave me something that I want to start practicing, is a daily list to recite, because this battle is real. I'm telling you. I mean, you have to interact with people, but it's dangerous. It's because you don't know you just so yeah.
The analogy of I heard my father say something to me one day, and I never forgot it. I said, that is the perfect analogy for that. My father said, I used to like to watch Winnie the Pooh when I was a kid. And my father said, you got to watch out for those Eeyores in life. And one day I said to him, I said, Eeyore is always crying. Eeyore is always sad about something. I said, Winnie the Pooh and Piglet could be talking about, oh, we can't wait to go out and eat. Or, oh, we can't wait to walk around the park. And then they look at Eeyore, and Eeyore, even at one point, had a little cloud over his head that followed him around. Yeah. And one day I looked at my dad and I said, man, why is Eeyore always like that? And he looks at me and he says, Danny, don't ever forget, watch those Eeyores. I said, yeah, whenever Eeyore comes around, all of a sudden, Winnie the Pooh and Piglet, they just get sad too. And his little cloud transfers over to him, and now they got a little piece of the cloud over them, right? And in some sense, yes, I so appreciate what you're highlighting, because that's it exactly. We have to watch. We gotta watch these Eeyores in our life that might try to come and put that little cloud. Try to rain on our parade.
Exactly.
You are so right. You are so right. You are so right about that.
Yeah.
Another point that the Wilkes couple highlights for us to reflect on, and it is something that you said that we want to also expand in these moments, is that having your joy is a revolutionary act. Having joy is a revolutionary act in some sense. And we often don't pay much attention to that. This idea that having joy is actually a revolutionary act. What do we mean by that? I'm going to post an image quickly for a moment on the screen. In some sense, in the face of white supremacy, in the face of a racist society that tries to make us feel bad about ourselves and wrestle with low self-esteem, in the face of white supremacy, which attempts to take away our joy, it really, in some sense, becomes a revolutionary act when we can hold on to our joy in the midst of all of the crisis and pain that we are experiencing. Oftentimes, we don't necessarily really think about joy as a revolutionary act, but in many social justice circles, this theme is highlighted around, in some sense, how do you smile and not allow anybody to take away your joy, even when it seems as if all hope is lost? How do you hold on to this great sense of joy, remembering that, in some sense, what our grandmothers used to say, the purpose in life is to figure out how to have a joy that the world didn't give to you, and certainly a joy that the world can't take away from you. And so in some sense, we have to reflect on, how do we hold on to our joy in the midst of our crisis? How do we hold on to our joy in the midst of our crisis? Because in some sense, that is the work of white supremacy. You know, white supremacy doesn't just want to physically harm us. White supremacy also seeks to psychologically and emotionally harm us. Psychologically and emotionally harm us, first and foremost, by taking away our joy in some sense. And so there is a reflective practice of thinking about and giving thanks for all of the good that God has blessed us with, because in some sense, this really is an act of as you said, Pastor Jackson, this really is an act of revolution and in some sense liberation. In some sense, liberation. I'd like to share a particular image, if you will. I'd like to share a particular image, and I want to invite you all. I'm sorry, I don't know the name of this image. I'm sorry, I don't know the name of this image, but this image is very, 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 very powerful, and I would invite you to check out this image and write down what are the first initial thoughts that you have when you see this image. There should be some initial thoughts that come to mind for you when you see this image in some sense. This image that I'm getting ready to share on my screen at this time invites us to think about a particular concept around this subversive joy. The person, so that I can give full credit to this image, this artwork was presented by Dr. Irie Lynn Session. Dr. Irie Lynn Session. And she talks about subversive joy being in this image. You will notice in this image, there is a sister that is swimming. And unbeknownst to this sister, or maybe she does know, There's a shark nearby. There's a shark nearby. And can you see the look on the shark's face? You see this look on the shark's face? It would look and seem as if the shark is going to harm her, bite her, kill her in some sense, harm her in some sense. But notice the smile on this sister's face as she is swimming in this water. Dr. Irene Lynn's session highlights a belief that says, in some sense, all of us will find ourselves swimming in some oceans where we are surrounded by sharks who may seek to harm us. And oftentimes, many times, we may not even know that the sharks are near us. We may not even know that the sharks are around us. But we still have to figure out how to have joy, how to keep joy, how to hold on to joy, how to maintain joy and keep a smile on our face in some sense. I think this image is so powerful. And Dr. Irene Lynn's session highlights this image for us to reflect on and saying, how do you, the true work of liberation is, how do you remember to keep your joy in the midst of all that white supremacy, capitalism, these so-called United States of America may seem to desire to take away from us in some sense. What can you say to yourself to keep a smile on your face and not concern yourself or not pay attention to the sharks that may be all around? Another important thought for us to grapple with is some particular statistics on gratitude. Some particular statistics on gratitude. What good is gratitude? What good is gratitude? We often believe that if you can practice an attitude of gratitude and lift up Psalm 103 by not forgetting all that God has done for you, all that God has given to you, you will see one is able to be more charitable. Grateful people on average give 20% more of their time and their money. Grateful people on average are more generous to charity. Next, we discover gratitude is related to age. For every 10 years of life that you live, gratitude will help you increase your life by 5%. For every 10 years that you live, your life will be increased by 5% if you exhibit a spirit of gratitude. If you experience a spirit of gratitude, we often look at particular people, popular people today, and we say, wow, Black don't crack with them, or they look ageless, or they look so beautiful and young. Sometimes we say that's because they have practiced an attitude of gratitude. They have practiced gratefulness. I remember listening to a reporter interview the incomparable Cicely Tyson before she went on to be with the Lord. And I remember a reporter asked her, wow, you look great to be in your 90s. What's the secret? And Cicely Tyson said, I don't allow things to stress me out. And right when I began to get stressed about things, I started to think about all the good things that I have in life, all the ways in which God has blessed me and everything that I have survived over my life. She says, and I continue to do that. She says, and in some sense, what she's really highlighting is this dynamic of she was able to live a long life because her gratitude increased her life expectancy. We also say in certain areas or ways, gratitude also impacts community. Grateful people will have a stronger bond with their local community. Yes, gratitude increases social relationships. Grateful people will want to have a stronger bond with their local community. Gratitude also has an impact on your health. Grateful people will have 10% fewer stress related to illnesses and be more physically fit and have blood pressure that is lower by 12%. Happy people's income is roughly 7% higher than unhappy people's income. Did you know that your sense of gratitude also has an impact on your finances? That's right. Grateful people are more happy and financially are more financially settled and stable, because grateful people do things differently with their income by making particular investments, by making particular contributions to charity, by making particular financial decisions. Yes, gratefulness also increases your finances. Next, being grateful creates more satisfying relationships with others. And grateful people are oftentimes better liked. Grateful people are often liked more by other folks, because when you have a spirit of gratefulness, this energy draws other folks to you. When you are grateful, other people want to be around you. Other people yearn to experience that same wonderful energy. And so grateful people are often liked more by others. We also say gratefulness has an impact on young people. Youth and teens, for example, who exercise a spirit of gratefulness are less likely to show physical aggression. They're more likely to get better grades in school. And they're more likely to stay away from unhealthy vices like smoking or drugs. Grateful teens are less likely to start smoking. Do you know, in these United States of America, we also discover that the spirit of gratefulness is contagious to other folks we live with. And therefore, our countries often have a reputation of being grateful versus ungrateful. According to statistics, the most grateful countries are South Africa, Philippines, India. South Africa, Philippines, and India. The most least grateful countries, the Netherlands, Denmark, Hungary, and the UK, where you all's queen just died. We also discover, in some sense, that gratefulness also contributes to your life expectancy. You can have overall 7 years added to your life based on your ability to be grateful. You can have 7 years. Think about that for a second. You can have 7 years added to your life based on your ability to be grateful. You can age gracefully a bit better based on your ability to be grateful. What thoughts resonate for you as you look at this? As you look at this chart? What thoughts resonate for you in these moments? What thoughts resonate for you in these moments? Oh, you want to put it back on? I'm sorry. I'll put it back on the screen.
Yeah. So we don't, Kathleen lifted up a book. The title is The Deep It's by, the authors are Rivers Solomon and David Diggs. She said it's on Audible. And she said it's short, maybe about 3.5 hours, that deals with gratitude. And Isla says, what's the difference between grateful and thankful?
Oh, wow. That's amazing. Thank you so much. Thank you so much for that book referral. Thank you so much for that book referral. Thankful and grateful. Oftentimes we use those terms synonymously, but they're not synonymous. They're not synonymous. We use those terms synonymously, but they're not synonymous. One has to deal with, in some sense, value. One has to deal in some sense with value. To be thankful, let's talk just clearly, just basic definitions. To be thankful means, to be appreciative that someone has done something for you. To be appreciative that someone has done something for you. To be grateful is a slightly bit more intense and passionate. To be grateful means you are not simply just appreciative of what someone has done for you, but you passionately and more intensely are thankful for what someone has done for you, knowing that they didn't have to do it for you, and knowing that it didn't have to happen for you. I can be thankful because someone has given me something, giving me a gift, if you will. But to be grateful for something means someone gave something out of the less that they had. I'm thinking in particular of a parable that Jesus highlighted one day. A group of gentlemen came to Jesus one day and said, who does better? A rich person who gives a portion of their money to charity, or a woman who gives just a little bit of what she has because unfortunately she's poor. And Jesus says to this group of gentlemen, Jesus says, the gift that was given by the person who was poor and gave out of faithfulness, out of gratefulness, is more worthy. In some sense, anybody can give, especially if they have it to give. But what if you don't have it to give and you still give it anyway? That for me is the difference between thankfulness and gratefulness. Gratefulness in some sense represents a deeper passion, a deeper intensity of saying thank you. And gratefulness comes with it this expectation or understanding that one is more thankful, if you will, understanding that this gift didn't have to be given to them, understanding that there was nothing that they could have done that might have been deserving, so to speak, of this gift. Does that make sense, or hogwash?
Yeah. She said, I get it. That was a good question, and I really thank you. I'm grateful. And because I think about, a couple of weeks ago, I preached a sermon on gratitude for God's grace, and it was about being. And I could have used, that grass. Oh my God, because it is so insightful. Again, it is revolutionary resistance against things that are trying to take us out by utilizing our emotions to keep us in a kind of a attitude of downward spiral. Like you said, Igor, with the cloud of bad luck, schlep rock and the peanuts, is always, trying to keep us in that just kind of nasty funk. And to be able to fight out of this, the benefits are just overwhelming. I mean, you're talking about blood pressure and sleep. I don't sleep well. And I've been working with some, trying to work with some things. And here's something else where again, the practice that you lifted up, I'm going to incorporate for myself of, intentionally doing the work to write it down, because you said it earlier, amnesia sets in. All the problems, all the things you got to get done, and all the stuff you don't want to face, it claims all your attention. And so just a fight. I got to intentionally write this down because my goodness, I mean, you live longer. And, and I'm going to say this, we all have known folk that just seem to know everybody. You run into people, and there are certain people that everywhere you go, they are known. Everybody knows them. And part of it's because these are grateful people. And you said people want to be around them. And
that's also, you. I think that's you. I think that's you. Because that's you.
Oh. Well, I'll take it. But that's the other part to it. These folks, you're just being grateful. You don't realize it, that you get connected with just a lot of people, because that is just fabulous. Oh my God, this is revolutionary. Oh my God, all of that's in that list is just the benefits of gratefulness. Oh my God. Thank you.
No problem. This is also, we would be remiss if we did not talk about this. September is Suicide Awareness Month. So every Tuesday for the rest of the month of September, we want to highlight. Please, 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 please know that this is National Suicide Awareness Month. If you or someone you know is in an emergency, feel free to call this phone number. Feel free to text this crisis text line. Text NAMI, NAMI, to 741-741. Text NAMI to 741-741. Please, please, please share this flyer. Please, please, please share this flyer with someone who you know is in need. NAMI stands for the National Alliance on Mental Illness. We want to highlight, in some sense, during this month of September, we want to support healthy emotions. We want to support. If you need help, please, please, please go get help. And we especially want to remind ourselves not to have stigmas around mental health. So especially to our brothers, we're seeing more and more higher rates of suicide among our brothers in particular. And so we want to really, really, really work hard to support our Black men, especially help support our Black men. We don't want to get into gender dynamics, that men don't cry, that men are strong, that men can take it. No, that's not true. Men cry, men break down, men get anxiety, men have emotions, men feel insecure, men get abused, men have mental illness. It's not unmanly to struggle. How do we support our brothers now more than ever? How do we support our brothers now more than ever, like never before, right? I'm thinking in particular of this amazing comedian who I used to love to watch. He was a rising star who recently, unfortunately, just passed away, David Arnold. I'm thinking about the ways in which we're starting to see, unfortunately, men are under so much psychological and emotional attacks. And so how do we more than ever support our brothers and support our brothers around healthy mental health? We also want to encourage you, if you currently don't have a therapist and you want somebody to talk to, life can be hard. We want to support you reaching out to these particular websites and establishing a therapeutic relationship with a therapist who will help you. If you need help after reading Psalm 103, after writing your list of gratitude and reflecting on all that God has done for you, it is okay to also seek a therapist. The good news is we can have Jesus and a therapist. We don't have to choose either or. We can have both and. And so please, family, share these websites and encourage, really, really, really encourage someone who needs a little bit more help in trying to hold on to this subversive joy. Thank you. Thank you.
Wow. Yeah. Thank you. And please let me get that flyer about the
Yes.
therapist
Okay.
and whatnot. Thank you for highlighting that in particular for this month about suicide hotline. I mean, we really don't know how many people have contemplated it, whether they're going to carry it through or not. I know a lot of people that have said, I've said it before. I know a lot of people that have said, I don't want to harm myself, but they say, I prayed, and they tell God, if you don't let me wake up in the morning, it'll be okay. Mm-hmm. And that is mentally allowing oneself to think about suicide. In other words, I don't have anything else to be grateful for, is some sort of what they're saying. And then thank you so much for highlighting that men cry, men struggle, men have anxiety, men go through that. I mean, that it is not unmanly, to struggle in those ways. I did a singles workshop years ago. I'll never will forget it. And one of the women, younger woman, she spoke up. She said, "Now I just cannot put up with a man that is sensitive and cries, and stuff like that. I just can't put up with that." I said, "Oh God." So, I'm like, what do you want, a robot? Somebody who never has any, that's not the way God made us, At just about all the funerals I do, I'll open up with this, that God put tear ducts in your eyes for a reason. And it is not strength to not cry. It is strength to cry, because that's part of the healing process and the grieving process. Mm-hmm. So thank you for doing that. This
no problem.
This revolutionary.
No problem.
Yeah.
No problem.
Well, all right.
It's a double-edged sword, because my sisters say, I don't want a man that's gonna be hitting on me and be all aggressive, but then I don't want no Ralph Tresvant. But I'm like, okay, well then what do you want?
Right.
What do you want? Well, what do you really want?
Exactly.
What do you want? We got two options.
Yeah.
Now you don't want this over here, but you say you don't want this over here. Okay.
Right. So what is it you want?
What do you want? You just want to be alone. Okay. Cool. You just gonna be alone? Okay, cool. You just want to be alone.
Yeah, well.
Let me shut up. I'm about to get on a little soapbox. Let me be quiet. Let me be quiet.
Well, thank you for that. This is, again, you all, please share this. The YouTube video is up. It'll be up. And so you can share it now. You can share it in a few moments, because again, everybody that is on right now, somebody that has a negative spirit. Some people, and I'm not talking about intentionally mean people. I'm talking about people who just struggle with having joy, with having gratefulness because of the circumstances of their life, and they may not have people close to them who are encouraging to them, and so you just don't know what relevant it will be to share this video. This is incredible stuff, and Dr. Buhuro has put tools in there. I had somebody just this week ask me about counselors and counseling therapists. They want to see somebody. And so you never know who might be struggling with asking for that, because you know how we feel oftentimes in our community about going to see a therapist. It is okay. You can have Jesus, you can have a therapist, and you'll be all right. You're still gonna get in heaven. It's gonna be good. You know, your seat is still reserved. You know, I got a therapist, you know,
Me
and
too, me too, me too,
exactly,
me
exactly.
too, me
And
too.
you know, it is nothing but gold. It is just beautiful. And
Yeah.
so please share the video.
My therapist has helped me from not being in jail for homicide. So, or else I would be in jail serving a life sentence for homicide.
You
Oh,
too? You
oh,
too?
oh, oh. It is
You
because of my
too?
therapist that I'm on the outside.
Oh my goodness. Therapists help you
Yes,
to recognize your hands go around the cup, around the fork, around the
yes,
spoon, around the
yes,
steering wheel,
yes.
and not around somebody's neck.
Yeah, they don't go around Africans. They don't go around the necks of Africans. They don't go around the
God,
necks of Africans. Oh,
thank God for therapists.
thank God for therapists. Because
Oh God.
Africa would be one less African right about
Oh
now.
my goodness, be a whole lot less.
Oh, thank you, thank
Thank
you,
you.
thank
We will
you.
see you all on next week. Again, if you haven't gotten this book, please get it.
Yeah.
It is a daily ritual of meditation that will just be a resource for your life. So thanks again, Dr. Buhuro.
Thank you, thank you.
Amen. And we are going to close down the YouTube.